remind the individual, hey, you've got 3 months, you've got 2 months left, you need to start doing the application because it takes a long time for that actual document to come through. So that's one area of advocacy that you can at least push the person to do the application. And I'm not sure how much, does anybody know how much it costs? Because it's not cheap, actually. So imagine.
$700 every year that I'm renewing that.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
going to
you
be
for
built
that. I
in.
appreciate it. Because when I 10, 20 years ago, it was like $85 or much cheaper than that even. So prices. Yeah.
Now, Diane, I know that you deal a lot with the immigrant population that's coming to Columbus. Talk to us about what that looks like and who you're interacting with on a daily basis.
Sure. We didn't even know this when we opened. We just opened to help people. And we found out that almost exclusively 99% of the people coming to move on Riverview had won the diversity visa lottery. And that's another way to come into our country. And in the 80s, our country said we need more diversity. And to this day, every year, our country chooses which countries we're going to accept diversity visa lottery winners. So maybe 20,000 from Bangladesh and 15,000 from Algeria, whatever they decide, and it changes. And so our demographics on the street have changed. When we used to have people from Bangladesh, and now that has closed for them, and now people from Algeria are coming. But what that means is that people come automatically with their permanent resident card, their green card. Still not citizens, still have to wait about 5 years for that, but they automatically can work the moment they come and have their green card. So we were seeing people that said, "I'm staying with my friend. I won the lottery. Congratulations. You can. I'm staying with my friend. I need a job right now," and they are able to work right very quickly. So, but people are not fleeing in this case. They're choosing. They're applying, and so they are maybe not coming as much with the trauma, and they usually have a level of education and a level of financial support, but it still only lasts them about three months, and it's still scary, and you still don't know a whole bunch of things about cultural norms. But people are coming and ready and willing, and often we see people with these higher level education. Almost everybody has their bachelor's. This is not always true, but are higher and has so many skills, but are going to be looking at those entry level jobs at least at the beginning.
Guadalupe, I know in all the different hats that you wear that you mentioned and all the organizations that you support, are you dealing with refugees, immigrants, people getting work visas, all of the above? Who are you serving?
Um, I would like to think I'm serving the ecosystem of workforce development, because you just heard several terms here, right? We said refugee, immigrant, and then there are asylum seekers, right? But within that, there are international students. There are so many terms to learn and understand about how one comes to the United States, right? There's multiple types of visas. And so the most important thing for us to really like understand is one is that people are here and they're eager to work and they're eager to contribute. And this what Diane said, I don't want to take that lightly. People are coming here with 2 and 3 degrees, right? PhDs and skill sets, they interchange. So I just want to share that that's very important when we think about employment and who is walking through the door and applying for a job. So I work a lot at a policy level, so working very diligently to change some of our legislation policies and the guidelines that our credentialing bodies have currently, because that is really where the holdup is in these internationally trained professionals becoming, professionals here in Central Ohio.
So I think we had mentioned, someone had mentioned that, where we're getting a lot in Columbus and the rest of the United States from Afghanistan, from Ukraine, from Somalia, from, countries that we read about in the news every day. What in your respective organizations are you seeing? Where are people coming from now? Like in the since the beginning of this year, perhaps, and what are some of the things that they've experienced on their journey to get here? So if we think about specific countries or specific parts of the world, like where are people coming from?
So in regards to Jewish Family Services, and I can hopefully speak for Community Refugee Immigration Services and ETSS. Those are the three resettlement agencies that really welcome people at the airport at the moment. Um, Majority of those individuals, for at least the resettlement context, it's the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That's one area. The Great Lakes of Africa, I should say, between Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo. And we've got still Somalis arriving, but the Afghans slowed down a bit. 2 years ago, it was massive amount of Afghans, people from Afghanistan were arriving. I'm sure you were dealing with that quite a bit. And also folks from Ukraine are also arriving in record numbers. So in if you were in this business 20 years ago, you only saw two types of refugees, whether they're Somali or Bhutanese Nepali. The diversity within that really puts a strain on organizations like ours because we have to even diversify even further with how many staff can handle with the diversity itself. So the complexity even continues. Like if you're serving Afghans 1 year and you have other refugees arriving, that means you have to actually start building up, correct?
Yes, that's right. So we are, I want to add a couple things on what Tariq said. So when refugees and asylum seekers come, and if they get accepted into the program for the refugee resettlement sites, they are helped for 3 months, sometimes 6 months, depending on the family size. And then the time cuts off because they're taking so many more people in and having to help people. So what happens to the people who have just been here 3 or 6 months and now they're not getting that help? They still have questions. They still need help. And so there are other agencies, and we are one of those that are helping, whether they're coming as a refugee or not. We're helping assist Jewish Family Services or ETSS in that beginning if people happen to live on Riverview Drive, but also along the way. So I used to think that if you were a refugee, then you got help for a very, very long time, and that's just not the case. It really cuts off. So there is still support that is needed. So we are again seeing a mostly diversity visa lottery, and it's usually Middle East, North Africa who are seeing. But this year we have also seen more people from the Congo and more people from Haiti coming, and we are still seeing Afghans come. So there are some that who didn't make it the first time but are now coming in, and we're seeing them when they first arrive. We have a lot of Afghans who live on the street, and so they say, "Here, we've been helped, so come on over." And that's who we're seeing, but mostly people who are coming with diversity visa lottery.
We're also seeing a lot of Central and South Americans arriving specifically to Central Ohio. And I would say as well, us together is definitely seen and served many people from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Iraqis. Um, but even recently, there was someone that came from Ghana, that found their way here. And so the asylum pathway is definitely a new um, Central Ohio's definitely become in Ohio in general a gateway city. Does everyone know what a gateway city is? So typically, a gateway city is New York, um, San Francisco, right? So Miami, right? Cities that are an entry, the first point of entry. Ohio, I would say, for the last easily 10 years in the Midwest, the cities within the Midwest have become a gateway city. And I also want to mention that other than Chicago, um, in the Midwest, Central Ohio has the largest population of immigrant refugees and migrants.
So I want to dig again a little bit more to Diane when you talked about that 3 to 6 month period of time that refugees are getting support. I mean, what happens after that? When we talk about that support, what type of support are they getting, and what happens after that? After that goes away?
I know we've learned a lot because, like I said, we started out not knowing anything, and we mostly were helping the DV winners. And when the Afghans came, that's when we learned a lot about refugees and what people, what the work that you are doing. It's really amazing. It's a lot that has to be crammed in at the beginning. So I will say the point where you said afterwards, what happens afterwards. Often people maybe got their first job, but it might not be a job that they really want to keep, or it's enough for a living wage job. You don't realize that it's close to your living wage job, but you know our living wage is higher now, and it's hard. So maybe their spouse now needs to find a job, or they're looking for a second job and don't know where to look, and we can continue to help them in that area. And then there are just still other some people just move right along, and some people just need extra help depending on the trauma that they have and that are keeping them from needing these or getting these things. Do you want to speak more?
I don't know if that's something today, but just along the lines of what Diane's saying, um, there's sometimes we hear rhetoric, right, about immigrants depleting our country, but it's very interesting to expand upon what you said, because what we've noticed is also, in addition to refugee resettlement agencies going to the airport to greet individuals, the community is as well. And so you will find that I know with the Ukrainian community, what we've experienced is that so you can arrive as a refugee and go through the system, and the system is there to help and support. The Ukrainian community has found it's just easier when someone arrives, just get them employed. They already have jobs waiting for them. And so that's a different mindset in terms of what we are told or what the perception is about immigrants. And I've seen that. I remember when the Bhutanese community started to arrive, I was like overwhelmingly impressed at how quickly they set up their own nonprofit to serve their community. And what I've loved about Central Ohio since 1995, I've been here, is that that's what you see, leaders stepping up, grassroots leaders to serve their own community. So I think that that's important, in terms of the type of support one may have when they arrive. Everybody, just like if you came to Columbus from New York, or, and you weren't an immigrant, it takes a while to get plugged in. But if you are plugged in, you can receive many benefits in terms of being a connected community.
Well said, Guadalupe. I think that's a lot of people missing the concept of what immigrants and refugees do for our city and the vibrancy of it and how much they lift one another. But if I want to go back to one point of what do refugees actually receive when they do resettlement, so the federal government wisely says that each human being will receive $1,125, period. And case management for 3 months, 90 days. And after that, a refugee must reach self-sufficiency. Now, if I, as much of this room is extremely educated, if I took you to Kathmandu today and gave you $1,000, I know one guy will survive. That's Peter, because he lived there for many years. But nobody else will be able to survive in 3 months for you to learn Nepali language, for you to be able to obtain a job that you had in Columbus, similar to that. So how do you expect a refugee for $1,125 to reach self-sufficiency and to move forward? So this is where we rely on employers like you. We rely on the community. We rely on the nonprofits. We rely on people to really support the refugees after their initial case management and support by Jewish Family Services, but also what's next. And just remember also, they do qualify for TANF, which is temporary needy assistant family. And also they do qualify for benefits as any American would qualify for if they were facing hardship. So I'm not saying that's all they get and goodbye. They do receive some sort of support from the federal government, but the initial welcoming, that is not $10,000 and you get a house and you get a car. None of that stuff exists. It's only $1,000 and good luck to you.
I think about times when, and it's not been frequent, but times when I've traveled in other countries, obviously not knowing the language, not knowing the customs, not knowing, I could always find a bathroom and a place to get a glass of wine. But beyond that, like the important parts of, moving forward and integrating in life. So we know language is an issue. What are some of the other barriers that keep our newest members of the community, whether they're refugee or immigrant? What are some of the barriers that keep them from going to work? I mean, there is language. What else? What else is there?
Well, again, it's credentialing. So, um, so you may, I'm sure everybody in this room has heard that the number of engineers, doctors, again, individuals with higher education that are cab drivers, right? And so when you think about or working at entry level jobs, and so I remember reading a report in Central Ohio about poverty, and the two things that keep people in poverty is temporary jobs and part-time jobs, right? Because then you can never really get ahead if you're only working temporary or part-time consistently. And so when you talk about building wealth, how can you build wealth? Or and we have seen immigrants who have 2 degrees and went back to school from the beginning, right? And struggled all the years and are now again PhDs here. But all that time, had they worked for a company that helped with tuition reimbursement, you have paid enough that you could have childcare, or have childcare even in your own um, workplace. But the most important thing is, in my opinion, is in addition to language, it's the credentialing and really how we as a workforce are really looking at the person in front of you. And when you're going through the interview process, identifying what their skill sets are.
And Diane, I know you've experienced that a lot with those that you serve, with people coming here from other parts of the world that have bachelor's degrees, higher degrees, and they're working, they're, doing DoorDash or whatever. What is what is the advice and what is the counsel that you provide to not just those folks, but to the businesses that you interact with?
The businesses who are willing to talk to us, we like to talk about that, but we also want to make sure that like our neighbors who are coming, we call our neighbors, our international friends who are coming, we want to make sure that they know English often. And even if you don't know your English isn't very good, there is a lot of worry. So I feel like we're encouraging people a lot. You can do this. Don't give up. Yes, your English is good enough. Really, you're trying. Don't give up. You don't need to do this, or you can do this now, but let's work on what your next thing is and where you can go. So with our employers, trying to talk to our employers, it's the same thing. If I have a hiring manager, and we will call people, just trying to call somebody in the hiring department, just to say, I have worked with Mohammed. I've worked with him for 6 weeks. He's always on time. He really wants to work. His English, he mostly doesn't use Google Translate, but does use Google Translate. He has this degree. I think he could really help you. Another thing, we have a lot of people who are coming who have their engineering degree. Well, how many entry level jobs, especially in manufacturing, need somebody to help fix those machines? But I see people who I've been working here, Diane. Nobody's paying attention. You're getting missed. I know how to fix that machine. Again, with our communication, if we can communicate with the hiring manager, or if we can tell our people, tell them that you can do that. That is very helpful. So I think what we are trying to find is a path to an entry level job that maybe in that company people can move up, because credentialing is huge. But also, even while you're trying to get your credentialing, can you do something in that job that is really helpful and really needed? And I'm going to say one more thing about English. Of course, we say English is such an issue, but I think if you're only an English speaker here trying to hire, it can be intimidating. It's also intimidating for the people who are coming, and again, building the confidence. But with technology, it's so good now. So it used to be, it was a bigger barrier. Maybe you had a friend who or a person who was working at your job who could help this person come along because you knew that language. But now people have their phones, and people know how to, everybody, even if you have no English, can hold that phone and listen to you and see what you're saying right away. If you have difficult things to read, they can hold their phone up and it can be translated as they're moving across there. So to be thinking for you out of the box, how can you hire somebody who maybe doesn't have English? So I've heard many times, oh, we can't hire people who don't speak English well because they won't pass the OSHA test or be able to do all the safety standards. Is that really the case? You know, how many other people really understand all the OSHA standards? So can we make it easier? You know, somebody just to show me, or let me use my phone so I can understand, because I do understand safety, you know. So those are some tips. I'm sorry.
I refugees and immigrants come to this country with empty hands and not empty heads.
Mm.
So if you are in a competitive job offering the public a job, it's a community that really could help you in not only filling those positions, but create a different way of looking at problems and solving them. So don't sleep on those communities. Reach out to us. We will help you navigate those linguistic and cultural challenges. That's the easy part. The hardest part, I think, of both the people who are offering jobs and the refugee and immigrant community, it is where to meet. And the idea is that meeting place, if if it's genuinely you mean it, that you want to give these individuals a chance, language is not an issue, as Diane just pointed out. There are some definitely jobs that require definite communication in the English language, no doubt. We're not talking about those, and those we can talk to you separately about those. But if you are in the entry level, those kind of jobs that are either manufacturing or either distribution, and all those jobs that are currently hiring, talk to us. One other problem that I notice is technology itself. Even though it's easy, but if you asking someone to submit an application online, and folks just got here and the internet is not their option, and also sort of a pot talks to them, hey, tell us when did you apply, tell us more about it. All those texting and all that stuff may not be the best. We need to really revisit how we offer those jobs. I know it's a lot easier for the American English speaking individual with technology, but if you're not, you're losing a lot of people that potentially could be the best employees for you.
And I want to mention something about that as well. There is something called contextualized English. And so, right? Some jobs are math, right? It's numbers are numbers. So, there's not a language barrier with that. So companies that are also right now providing English classes, English as second language classes in their companies, they're successful, right? They're hiring people and they're eliminating that barrier. And I just think that we need to look at our workforce has changed, and so what do we need to do, or what does our ecosystem need to do, workforce development ecosystem, to address that, right? Because just like with cultural competency, cultural humility, when we look at DEI, it's the same. It's just a different demographic we're talking about when we talk about cultural competency and cultural humility.
I love that you guys brought that up about, just how we can rethink and maybe alter the way that we're looking for people, hiring people, bringing people on board. I also love the example of a business that is making the time and the space at their place of employment for individuals who might need to improve their English skills, so that the person is already there at their place of employment. In some cases, I've actually heard some businesses are doing it on the clock. The person is being paid to actually improve their English. In other cases, it's maybe staying after or coming in before, but it's helping to, again, reduce another barrier for a lot of people, which can be transportation. I'm getting to work, I'm already there. I don't have to go one other place in order to do that. We have amazing providers of English for speakers of other languages in the Central Ohio area. I know my friend from Eastland Fairfield is here today. They're one. What are some of the other agencies and organizations beyond your own that you work with for things like ESOL and, getting guidance and support for transportation resolution?
Well, for ESLL, I would say that Festa, I believe
Yeah.
they do an exceptional job because they approach ESL, and I don't want to talk on behalf of you, but their model is unique in that they look at the whole family and the intergenerations, right? It's generational, right? So understanding that there are a lot of ESL opportunities, places to have English as a second language, but then you have to, contend with childcare and transportation. And so they have set up a model across the central Ohio that where the whole family comes, and so you're not worried about that because everybody's having experiencing their own level of education. So I would commend them on that.
I think Columbus State also has a great program, and I think don't discount the churches,
Yeah.
right? God bless those churches. They do a lot of English as a second language and support refugees and immigrants, teach them during service and after and before, and they do have some classes, and that is brilliant. But most importantly, learning English, as Guadalupe pointed out, there is levels to all of this, what you're learning. If you're learning survival English, how to buy bread, how to go to the store, how to check out, those are amazing and we need those. But the language that I want us in this context to focus on, language of the workplace. Each work or each company has its own language sometimes, even though everyone is speaking English. But if the first day that you show up, even though you speak English very well, you're like, what is everybody talking about? Right. So language of the workplace is one area that I focused on the last 20 years is really to study, visit you at your location, study what are the top 200 words that you constantly use within that context. And I'm talking about entry level. We're not talking about a doctor and engineers and what have you. So those entry level jobs, they constantly repeat things. The Amazons, the distribution centers I'm talking about. And once you learn those 200 words, we also reverse that. We teach the managers at least 50 words of that people that work for them the most. And there's a dynamic of understanding of one another. A Midwestern white gentleman speaking Kinyarwanda, a couple of words, and Swahili. It's such a beautiful thing that they both laugh and enjoy each other, and there's a camaraderie of work that work together. So I feel like we need to also talk about that English and not the traditional, only the ESOL model in the 80s and 90s where people just learn the survival. So just point to those things out.
And I just want to say, so that's what contextualized English is, right? It's very specific. Right.
I wanted to add too that the English for the workplace is something that you don't have to go to an outside source. It can really be you doing that, thinking out of the box. What are the words they need to know? And I do know there are other career specialists here because I saw them on the list and I met some of you already too. So I know there are lots of other places who those career specialists can, just like Tariq said, can help with that. And when we have found an employer who you just need one person to communicate. If you're a good communicator and they're a good communicator, then we can figure this out. We can find out what are your words? What do you need them to know? Oh, I have these three people. They've been on time. They've been coming. Now that you said they need these words, we have taught these words. We can recommend them and help them have a pathway. After we recommend them, and this is probably I know other career specialists too, after somebody is hired there, we are all still around to help with issues. They're not understanding this. Diane, somebody keeps taking a break. Every time somebody takes a break, they take a break. So I talk to them. Oh, I didn't know. There's things like that we can continue to help with the communication with that. But in your own workplace, you also don't need to know any of those languages except for the top words you want to teach and learn. You can use Google Translate, but you can demonstrate what these things are. The other language of the workplace is the cultural things that happen. Here's where you check in. Here's where you swipe. Oh, it's time for a break. Here's where you go. you're allowed to go to the restroom, or you can't go to the restroom, or this is where the restroom. Now we're on a break. I will talk to you. I've had people when I was helping before, they will be at a workplace and there's a group of people hanging around who are speaking a language, a different language, and the other people think that those people are talking about them. So I've had to talk to, make sure we're talking. No, they're just having fun like you're having fun. Maybe they think you're making fun of them. Let's talk to each other. It's just doing things together. Maybe at the workplace when you have a food event, that you're not just saying, oh, I'm not going to have pork, but I'm going to actually have something that maybe somebody would enjoy. We enjoy a certain amount. We like Chipotle, but could we also have hummus and pita, something like that?
And I
Right,
just
that
want to add, it's a good business model. This isn't, it's not like we're saying, oh, you should do this. It's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do, but it is a good business model. And research shows that the corporations, businesses that have the best retention are diverse bodies, right? Where there's diverse staff. Those companies have better retention rates than where it's not as diverse.
Diane, you just brought up something really interesting too that I know that all of us have talked about in different iterations, but the cultural aspect of a workplace. And I think we all know some employers locally who are doing some really amazing things in order to make their place of employment a place of employment that people want to go and where they want to stay. So if I'd ask each of you to maybe think about, and you don't have to say the name unless you want to of the company, but of local businesses that are getting this right. They're understanding the contextual English pieces, the let's meet people where they are. We have to, kind of join together the piece around food or just customs. Like, who's getting this right now?
We had right where we are located next to Riverside Hospital, there's several hotels, and there's a Marriott hotel right at the end of Riverview Drive. And that person, that manager there, was very communicative with us. So there's also a Hampton Inn right there too. And so I've seen different things happen as you build the relationship of the communication, then saying, okay, now we do have a lot more people on our who work here who are Muslim. So, and we're noticing that during a certain time of the year, everybody is wanting to take off. All of our staff want to take off. Can we know about these things ahead of time? Can we prepare? What can we do to honor this time, specifically Ramadan and Eid? Eid is the time that is coming up that a lot of people want to take off. At the Hampton Inn, some of the staff there didn't want to wear the T-shirts. They were fine to wear the T-shirt, but they added on something at the bottom of the T-shirt because for the women to be covered longer, even over your pants, was important, and to have longer sleeves, have your arms covered. And they were able to do that. They didn't know that without communicating and really, really listening. And then I already mentioned the food thing was one thing.
I think, Kelly, you know which company I'm about to. Amerisource Bergen is a pharmaceutical company warehouse here locally in Lockbourne. What they did is quite remarkable, and I've worked with many companies who have done similar work, but they took it a step further. And first of all, they created a space for people who are, they call it interfaith, but majority was the Muslim folks that they could pray their prayer. Worked with us closely about to work out Ramadan, and um, really implemented positive things, even transportation. Lockbourne, most refugees are currently living at Northside, Cleveland Avenue. So the company took that busing on their own. They paid for it, and it cost them quite a bit, but they literally did that because they saw the value of 80 to 120 people with 3 different shifts working for them. They took that cost because they see these folks will grow with this company and legal to work, hardworking, loyal, and they're constantly referring their family members and folks. And this is something about immigrants too. Once you hire a few, good luck to you because they will keep coming and bring all their neighbors and everybody else. But that's one company that really did it right. Started with the honoring everybody by hanging their flags. As soon as you walk into the company, there's giant flags of every country that everybody that works there, and you could took me a while to guess which flag was which actually. So, and then you have DHL, who I worked very closely with. Um, amazing organization. Even a few days ago, before Ramadan started, we worked on coming in, helping the staff understand, helping the HR understand what Ramadan is and how can you implement, what shifts can you kind of move in and out to make sure that, the prayer time and what have you. So those things are really retaining your workforce in a long term, and not only just thinking about the bottom line only. Yes, you should, but also think about the humans that work for you. And that's amazing retention for a long time.
In Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, we recently have been speaking with them, and they are also providing ESL and contextualized English. But they do an array of provide an array of services for all their employees. And again, it's looking at the culture shift of um, looking at the whole person, right? And so even individuals, I know I had a conversation with it was Matt from Midwest Ohio, right? And he was talking about, who's that individual that's coming to the food bank. And so even individuals that are making $60,000, we all know gas rates went up for a while and also food costs. And so, what we look at in terms of labels and what living in poverty is, that's like fluid. And so I just want to say again, it's great that Ohio State is doing that and more companies are doing it. To be honest, Walmart was doing it 10 years ago at their headquarters. They were providing ESL because, again, it's a good business model. But the cultural competency piece, and there's lots of examples about where having a buddy system and really learning from each other, taking those opportunities at staff meetings to maybe do some education and or groups like group dialogue so that we learn from each other because it's called immigrant integration, right? So we're both learning. If you've been here and you're considered what we call the receiving community, and then those that are arriving, it's a learning experience for all, and it expands our own thought process. And like you said, meeting somebody maybe from Ghana or from um, Bhutan, what we're going to learn from that is, it's only benefiting us as individuals. And then again, your company. And I just want to reiterate, there is also data that says, yes, when an employee is happy, they're going to share with their family members about this great company that they work for. And what's the best word? Word of mouth is the best form of marketing. So
One challenge to thank you, Luca. That was exactly right. One challenge I faced in the past was the director of HR is absolutely on board about diversifying, but the actual person who's working with the individuals, it's a hard work, and they don't see. So there's a mislining between the higher ups who really want diversity and want to hire refugees and want to bring in. Then you have the actual staff who's training them. They're so used to training American born, English is first language, do this, done. Here, you need to talk about cultural. There's an app. They're like, man, I cannot do this anymore. This is adding to my work. So this is where people like us would come in and help that hiring, person who's training these individuals to help him or her understand this is much easier. This is how we do it. This is how we can help you. So there's always a misalignment at first when the director and the CEO and everybody wants these individuals to be hired and people are training them. And this is where I feel like there's a misalignment that we can help as well.
I just, oh, that's such a big thing. To keep talking about communication. That's why I'm talking about communication, finding the right person. You said it so much better because that's what it is. Oh, it's so hard when you talk and you think we have a plan, we have the whole plan, and then we say we prep our people, and then they go and nobody's getting hired. We were just told we have a pathway and nobody's getting hired. It happens. Oh, I see there were lots of people nodding their head when you were speaking.
I also want to mention that, the thought process when we're looking to hire people, okay, and whether it's an entry level and then having a pathway, right, for upward mobility, um, as we hire individuals to fill the gaps that we know we have in Ohio, think about these numbers. So, um, this is data from 2019. 1.4 billion went to federal taxes. Those are clients, right? Because they're paying their taxes. They need accountants. Um, but I'm just saying in general, what happens when money goes into the tax base? That benefits us all, right? Our garbage pickup, our roads repairs, all of the services that we receive from taxes, we all benefit from that. And then I have 712.4 million went to state and local taxes. That's here in Ohio. And 729.5 million went to Social Security. So again, we all win when we're looking at innovative ways to hire individuals that may be diverse, but also working with anyone really walking into your door that has the skill sets that maybe needs assistance with communication, whether it's literacy, right? Not just English literacy, but literacy in general. There's all those transferable skills. Mothers, right, that have stayed at home they know how to do budgets, right? So looking at it from a broader standpoint about it's really cultural humility to look at the person in front of you as opposed to, oh, this person is an immigrant, or.
So we've talked about some examples of companies, some businesses locally and beyond that are getting it right, that are doing some really innovative things. If I'm a small business, a small to mid-sized business, and maybe I can't do all the things that like AmeriSourceBergen does or DHL or some of the others, what would be a good first step for a small business if I want to hire more from our refugee or immigrant communities?
Um, call us. Let's meet because we can tailor to what you need, right? You need two people. We can have a conversation. Location, what type of work, type of application, what infrastructure do you have inside to like let's say even if you're hiring two Muslim people, are there places for them to worship? Are there places? So all those things we can identify and troubleshoot before you even start hiring. I think that's the first step. I, I'll stop there because there's 8 other steps.
I think another one has to do with just the hiring process and your expectations and the application. So we're a small organization ourselves, and um, we wanted to put our money where our mouth is. We wanted to hire people who have learned and who have even come through our program. So what there's you look at we're new. We have to create a job description. So you have your examples online, but some of those job descriptions have there's so many rules. What rules really need to be there? Even the rule that I see all the time about you must be able to lift 50 pounds. Really? I'm at a place where I mean, I've been at places where I don't lift 50 pounds, but there are other people, I'll lift the 50 pounds. If there are there really 50 pounds, it's really 10 pounds. I mean, so look at every little thing. So for us, do we really want to have a bachelor's degree? Does somebody need to have a bachelor's degree to be hired for your normal bachelor's degree job? No, we didn't think so. You can have experience, you can do this. And what about the writing skills? Do the writing skills need to be perfect English grammar for this position? Are you going to cut people out because their grammar on their resume wasn't exactly what you wanted? So being more open to what you what are the real things that you need. So we hired our first neighbor who had come through, and because during COVID she started volunteering, she was just so proactive and just an amazing person. But the English still wasn't quite there where we normally would have been, and maybe the writing wasn't. But the whole time she has brought so much to our organization and to the people who are coming than whatever barrier we might have put up there at the beginning when we were thinking, because we were intentionally trying to be more open to what we really needed.
Transparency and leadership. Leadership actually being on board and wanting this, but also the transparency to everyone. I know that Franklin County has done an excellent job in the last, I would say, 5 years. And I remember, so cultural competency is very important. I keep bringing that up, but it's really important to have those conversations with each other and get to know each other, even however the company is before they start to expand to increase diversity. Again, when you know someone's story, or where you see we're more alike than not, then we start to have that empathy and compassion, and are able to speak to each other better. And so I remember Ronald Bryan, former, that's right, county prosecutor. He had everyone. We did 8 classes, 8 workshops, and everyone from the prosecutors as well as the front desk, right? Individuals, the receptionists, every point of contact, because it isn't going to do that much good if the boss says we want diversity and then people start coming in and then they don't feel welcomed, right? So understand, have that transparency from the top, right? From the very first person that meets an individual to the top leadership, right? So because it's that environment, creating that space of belonging, and that's where people thrive.
I want to add another one too about the job application, and I've been taught this even before I was helping new Americans with jobs with other populations with barriers, and I was taught this, and I've heard this many times that when you apply, there are certain questions that are there to weed out people, and you want to make sure things match and all that. So I think that's another thing. So what are you really asking at that higher level or online? Are they, if they're weed out questions, who are you weeding out? Can you have weed in questions? So we have a woman named Lubna who is she is so vibrant, and her English, more, but I've heard not there at all. And I have had the employer has said I would hire the whole place, everybody to be a Lubna, then because of her attitude and what she brings to everybody, because there's so much communication that happens that's beyond language. And I would do that, but then have all the people speak English and be able to do those things, because she inspires all and does a wonderful job. So how can we weed in? She would have been weeded out along the way several times. Another example, yesterday I was in the office and I heard our other career specialist, Fatu, explaining to someone who is at a much higher level English. She's been teaching, she's applying herself. And she said that we looked at the application, and let's say 85% of the English language, the question was, do you have a criminal background? She understood every word except for criminal. And how many things do you want to look up? Background. I have a background. I know I have a background. So she said yes. And so, but in her language was really good. But then and I'm not saying not to have, but well, there is the check the box. But anyway, so but just thinking of everything like that.
I know we're short on time, I'm pretty sure, but I'll share this quickly. Behavioral-based questions also is one challenge when you're interviewing individuals from different parts of the world. Um, Even Europeans, I'm not even talking about those refugees who are coming, but even Europeans, if you ask, tell me a time where this happened, those questions are very complicated to people who are not born in this Western culture. It's have you stolen something, for example, or tell me if somebody steals something, what would you do? Those kind of behavioral-based questions are very hard for people to understand and say, why would anybody steal, right? Like they don't even understand the concept of, I'll talk to my supervisor and I will not confront that person, what have you. But think about ways when you're interviewing individuals too in the future of saying hard, tell me about your experience. Did you do this in your country? Can you do this job? This is what this job does. Can you do this type of individuals? But telling you a story about their previous, a long story about what they did, it ain't gonna happen. So just wanted to share that as well.
That's good advice. We're at the part of the program where I step away from the podium and asking the questions and give all of you opportunity to ask questions of our panel. Who has a question that they would like to pose to anyone or all of the panel?
Thank you so much for all of your insight. It's been truly gratifying to sit and hear how you're serving our communities. As someone who is in a role in management, I think leaders need to be servants to those in the communities and specifically those they're managing. However, your company might not have a structural basis in regards to opportunities to help continue to learn in order to better hire and to better serve those you're serving. Do you currently have a program or a platform or resources that you can share? May it be with hiring managers, may it be with the COO, DE&IA experts at a company. What does it look like to find support in your leadership in the different communities of leadership in Columbus?
Well, I will say that we are coming out with a hiring guide for employers. And so we will be offering some roundtable discussions and bringing in national organizations that focus on exactly what employers are doing across the country and need to do in order to grow in that space. So I would say look for that. But yes, we do training and um, cultural competency, but also again the really understanding, what are the demographics and what are the changes in our community. So yes.
Similar to what Guadalupe pointed out, it's really starting at this point. This intersection is amazing. Like you already are, if your company hasn't done it, you already are getting to know the community, and then after that is connecting. And just like Guadalupe pointed out, we can come in and do a 1 hour tabletop training of who is here, why Columbus, what the legal ramifications, how do you hire people, how do you reach out, what demographics, all those things we could sit down and share. But we also have literature that we can point you to that direction as well.
I'm going to agree. So
A quick question. I'm really curious about the technology piece. Like, is there any piece of technology that you think is best or that you've seen a lot of companies use? I think there's an opportunity to really escalate some of the supervisor being more comfortable working with people who speak different languages.
In terms of technology, we're working with one company that is using something called Engine, and yeah, and I'll reach out to you. I'll send it, and I'll send it to Kelly. Maybe all of you could look at it. It's basically a program or a software that not only does the assessment but also does tailor to your company and what type of um, words are you using, translates those words into many languages. It's a good way of at least starting for that. But there's other softwares as well. But the good old Google Translate does amazing work, right? No need to complicate things. You want this person to take a break. Take a break. Thank you. But also, please do not discount. There are people, for example, the Somali community and the Bhutanese Nepali community have lived here for the last 20 years plus. There are people who are born in this country who are at the age of work, and they are as American as anybody. And those, if you include those as your leadership, that will mitigate a lot of cultural and a lot of disconnect. They will be able to be the bridge between that. So look at those individuals as well, part of your HR or hiring managers, leadership, board, whatever you can.
Thank you. Thank you all for all your sharing. My question is mostly like Jewish family or Chris, because a lot of resettlement agencies here. How do you all think you partner up with like staffing agencies? Because I've been into staffing for a while, and I've worked with different resettlement agencies from North Carolina. And somehow there's a concept between the fact that staffing agencies may have work for these employers, but the resettlement agencies or the places helping not seeing that as a pathway to work. If we do have places like Lingo that are trained to help, first of all, we have multi languages in our office, which cuts a lot in the way you all like help with paperwork and all that stuff because we're speaking to them in the language that we know. We are also immersed into these companies that we have trained the culture personally. How do you, I think my question is, how do we partner up in the fact that we are able to be that bridge that aligns them to work because it's the same purpose, but do it in a way where you all don't feel like you're throwing people to people that don't care, because that's the concept about staffing, that they don't care about our people and they're not putting them in the right places. How do you work in that gap?
So I like how you said the end part that we don't think any staffing is it's a great partnership. We love to partner with anybody that will help immigrant and refugee. The challenge sometimes is you are beholden into the contract that you have with a company that hired you to staff. And if that company decides we only need workforce for only 4 weeks, and after that we don't longer need them, it puts me in a disadvantage because I have a fiduciary responsibility to the people who gave me the federal government, i.e. the county, gave me the grant to support these individuals to maintain them at least 6 months employment. So therefore, it puts us in a disadvantage. Having said that, the right staffing, the right contract, the right partnership could always work. And there's no, to me, it doesn't matter how, personally I'm speaking of, it doesn't matter as long as the refugees is earning a livable wage and a long contract that they can sustain themselves, we will be partners indefinitely. So I hope that was that clear? Sorry.
I want to add too that yes, there's a lot of things about staffing agencies because exactly with what you said. But if there's a good communication and we meet with somebody and we will ask that question, I'm not interested in just a 3 month contract. And many times we hear that. Oh, they'll work 3 months, and if they're doing a good job, they can get hired on by the company. So is that really true? You know, I've been burnt by that a lot, where I was told it was true, and then almost no one actually gets hired by the company. You know, so I want to know that what is that true, and is there a path to something, you know, a path to something in that company? I know you can't guarantee it, but what are the chances? What is really out there? Is it longer than 3 months? And then experiencing it, you know, actions that speak as loud, you know, louder than the words, actually.
But we still want to talk to you.
Yeah, we still want to talk to you, right? To hear, yeah.
Well, join me in thanking our panel this morning. It's been a great conversation with my good friends and with all of you who are my friends as well. Thank you so much. I think we learned a lot. I was making notes furiously. I loved so many things that were said. Tariq, when you mentioned that refugees arrive with empty hands but not empty heads, I thought that really resonated. And thank you for sharing that. Now, as we're concluding, I'm going to be back on the back end here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, I want to introduce you to Amy McDermott. She's the manager of business development at Right Pat Credit Union to join us for some closing comments. Amy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amy McDermott. I'm the manager of business development at Right Pat Credit Union. It's a pleasure to be here with you all this morning to wrap up such an important conversation. Right Pat Credit Union is a proud sponsor of the Columbus Chamber and its Experience series, and we recognize the importance of facilitating conversations on workforce and talent development in the Central Ohio community. Currently, our partner employee base is made up of 1,400 partners, and we only continue to grow as the largest credit union in the state of Ohio. We all know that with growth comes great opportunity, but at times difficulty to keep and create a culture that matters. Right Pat Credit Union's goal is to be the best organization our member owners have ever experienced and the best place our partner employees have ever worked. We provide 401k match programs,
tuition reimbursement programs, $100 a month to put towards your student loans, 8 free annual mental health care sessions, $15,000 towards foster care, adoption, and infertility treatments, paid time to volunteer in our communities, and so much more. I've heard it said if you want to build a great company, create an environment where someone can raise their hand and say, I disagree, without fear of victimization or termination. As leaders and change makers, we need to realize what communities we belong to and know that can't be the only community you support. Managers are servants to their people. Leadership is not shutting yourself inside an ivory tower. It's using the tower's balcony to see all the successes and failures from a very unique lens, and to use that data to then speak up for your people in those communities. Columbus is now the fastest growing city, which means that people will continue to be our best assets. So let's take the time to take care of our people so that I continue to serve our community and clients with peace of mind and a sense of pride to work where they work. Thank you all. So this concludes our program this morning. Thank you all again for being here. Look for more events and opportunities to connect with us at the Columbus Chamber. And I would be remiss if I don't remind everyone that if you parked in the Marconi garage and you have your ticket, please see the front desk to have it validated on your way out. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
It was a pleasure being on the panel.